This is my first 6-star read ever. I have always saved 6-star reads for the first book that I reread. I don't reread books, and that's a little embarrassing to admit, but this one had me writing so many notes in my notes app that I feel like I should actually buy another copy just to annotate it. And I don't annotate books. I haven't done that since high school. It's not like something that I have an urge to do. I only did it because I had to do it to pass the class. Now I've got myself wanting to buy another copy just to scribble in the margins. And I guess you could say this one hit me on a deeper level. I have a lot to say about it, so let's get into it. So let's go over the plot. The book covers from Phoebe's check-in to her check-out. She checks into the hotel where she's planning to take her own life. Phoebe is a college professor where she works with her ex-husband and his mistress, who used to be her closest co-worker. She has been depressed for a while. She's struggling with fertility. Her husband has left her, had an affair, and now the nail in the coffin is that her cat has died, who was the last member of her support system. Phoebe runs away from her problems and she checks into a hotel which happens to be fully reserved for her wedding. Lila, the bride, runs into Phoebe in the elevator and she asks her which party she belongs to, bride or groom, because she didn't recognize her. At this point, Phoebe tells her that she's checked into the hotel and she plans to take her own life. Lila, of course, does not take this lightly. She is full bridezilla. She is not happy because Phoebe taking her life will mess up with the wedding. Very selfish. However, maybe this is exactly what Phoebe needs. Phoebe ends up changing her mind. Was it Lila? Was it not? We never really know. And we end up looking into who Phoebe wants to be and who she used to be. I wrote down a lot of quotes and I'm of course going to share them with you. They are my favorites. So first off, if you're happy everywhere, everywhere is your happy place. If you're sad, everywhere is your sad place. That one just hit me because everyone says go to your happy place. But if you're feeling sad, maybe that happy place doesn't exactly exist. Another one, it maybe is more of like a context quote, but I really liked it, was, why do I expect you to be more than a cat when all I ever wanted from you was to be just a cat? This one is way deeper than expected. I feel like you could actually flip it to Phoebe and her high expectations of herself. Another one, is it wrong to give a cat a treat for doing nothing at all, for being just a cat? That one there is definitely a thinker because, okay, you read the line and you don't think much of it, but if you really look at it, why does the cat get a treat for just being a cat? But like, you need to earn your rewards. You don't get one for just being a human. And that's kind of what I got out of that quote. When did Phoebe being good become Phoebe being nothing? This one, it's like she did everything she was supposed to do. And then after she pleased everybody, she was left with an empty shell for herself. What's the one thing I can do right now instead? This one is like a huge plot point quote because I feel like if you're really in the moment in your head and you're really struggling to be like, what can I do now? How can I fix this? Sometimes the problem's really big and you have to think smaller. What can I do right now? And I feel like that might help you reel in the panic a little bit. She's the only person here she's afraid of now. She's the only one here who just tried to kill her. And that's the thing, is we're always scared of all the people in the room, but sometimes I wonder, are we the scariest one? Like, for ourselves? She says this line because, like, obviously she was the one who was the biggest threat to herself, yet here she is walking into a room feeling fully intimidated by the room. After the war, the marriage, after the suicide, what happens next? This touches on how we feel the need to rush our milestones, just to be rushed with a sense of nothing to look forward to, nothing to push towards. Once the happiness fades, you begin to fixate on something else. And how is that a way to live? She always had the feeling it was very, very dangerous to live even one day. I know someone that this quote directly applies to them. Everything is scary, everything is paranoia, and it's hard sometimes because that quote really hit me. That it's really dangerous to live just even one day for this person. All this work we do just to feel something. I don't think there's anything more human than that. I think we talk about happiness all wrong, as if it's a fixed state that we're going to reach. Like we're going to be able to just live there forever, but that's not my experience with happiness. For me, it comes and goes. It shows up and then disappears like a bubble. To collect is to care the most, but it's also to hoard, to take things out of this world and make them only yours. This one definitely applies to me and my lifestyle and my husband's. We are collectors about certain things, and it really hit home because then I look at my parents and I would almost put them on the spectrum of hoarding because of how much they have, how much they're taking from the world. And it's maybe sometimes just to take it so that nobody else could. Now we're going to get into plot points that I think we should further discuss. Okay, number one thing that I wrote down in my notes app was I thought it was interesting how self-involved the bride remains throughout the book. Like, if someone tells you they're planning to kill themselves, all that she seemed to think about was how this affected her. However, maybe that's exactly what Phoebe needed. Like, it seemed to work. Honestly, maybe that's what she needed, was someone to burst her bubble and be like, hey, you're not the only one here. I don't know. I also was like noting how often Phoebe was thinking of others. Like, even when she was thinking of committing the act in her head, she went through the mindset of like, okay, we need something to be super clean, super easy to clean up for the people who find me. And she was just thinking so much about other people, even when she was trying to do an act for herself. Something that annoyed me was, since when is being normal something to be proud about? I find that so stupid. The way she phrases it, it's as if she had to hide all her quirks just to be normal. She was hiding all her unique quirks, her true passions, all of her desires from the world. And I feel like, since when does normal mean being complacent? Phoebe and her husband Matt definitely needed to improve on communication. Like, I know they're separated at this point, but like, maybe couples therapy could have helped them. Honestly, I feel like they were living on two different paths and just not even communicating well. Phoebe does mention how it's easier to talk to strangers sometimes. When she says this, like how going over to a neighbor's house and eating dinner is somehow easier than eating in her own kitchen with her own family. And I feel like maybe that's because they don't know you. I feel like sometimes it's easier to tell strangers your secrets because you know that they're not in the same circle as you are. And by telling them it, you can get it fully off your chest with no judgment, or they probably will judge you, but you don't need to see them again. And they won't talk to your inner circle, so you know it won't come back to you around that way either. Also, I had to look up the definition of cubism because it keeps coming up in this book. What they told me was, they believe that if you aren't seeing things from all sides, you aren't seeing it fully. And I feel like that's pretty deep. Like, you aren't seeing a person from all sides. Maybe you're not seeing them fully. I don't know. It was an interesting thing to keep bringing up, but I feel like it could definitely be analyzed a lot more. Now, this was the main thing I got out of a book. Depression is not a type of person. I kind of struggled with this book a little bit because it kept saying that it was a type of person. Like, I have so many different situations here, but maybe we should just dive into it. The quote, isn't a type of person who would kill themselves, seems to come up in this book a lot. And I kind of wanted to unpack that because we do hear that a lot in real life, and I feel like it's a little bit misleading. Depression does not have a type. There's no personality profile, there's no aesthetics, there's no checklist of traits that makes someone more or less likely to struggle with their mental health. Depression isn't something you are, it's something you experience. It's a state of mind, not a kind of person. Because the truth is, most people who do struggle with suicidal thoughts don't always look sad, withdrawn, or obviously depressed. Some people who seem the most put together, the most successful, the strongest, those are the ones who have learned to mask it the best. Strength does not make you immune. Cheerfulness does not make you immune. Even self-awareness does not make you immune. I wouldn't say that I disagree with the author, because the words are saying one thing, that you need to check the boxes in order to be depressed. However, if you stop and look past the words and at the story that's being played out, Phoebe is depressed. However, she does not check any of those boxes. Phoebe judges Mia's husband from his recovery from depression in chapter 2. She lists all the positives in his life, asking what does he have to be depressed about. Sometimes it isn't easy to see who's struggling with depression. It could be someone who seems to have everything put together on the outside, or it could be someone like Phoebe, who seems to have everything falling apart around them. Phoebe seems to have been struggling with negative and jealous emotions for a while now. Example, her husband's award, not getting the same attention at work, loss of interest in her projects. It's mentioned several times in this book that Phoebe is not the type of person to kill herself. Apparently, the justification behind it is because she takes multivitamins and brushes her hair. That does not line up for me. I'm sorry, but I don't think this is an accurate form of measuring what someone would or wouldn't do. Also, at the end of one of the chapters, Phoebe has like an internal monologue mentioning that she always knew she would take her own life. This statement directly contradicts the image that we've been getting of Phoebe. Then we see page 171, where Phoebe agrees with her therapist that she's not the type of person who tries to kill herself. I don't agree with this statement. I don't think it's a type of person, more of a state of mind. Feeling like there's no other option, like a sense of giving up. By supporting the stereotype that only someone who checks all the boxes can be depressed is a way of distancing themselves from vulnerability. But that stereotype is wrong in the first place. This way of thinking is a protective instinct. If I say I'm not that type, then I won't become that type. It's a way of coping with thoughts that feel terrifying, unfamiliar, and out of character. But again, that's the point. Depression often is out of character. It's usually something that hits you when you least expect it, or when life wears you down slowly without you realizing. And the biggest misconception of all of this is that the idea of suicidal thoughts are about wanting to die. Most of the time, they're about wanting the pain to stop, wanting relief, wanting a life that feels livable. So when the book uses the line, "I'm not the type," it can be jarring, but it also opens up a really important conversation. It shows how even characters, and by extension, real people, can internalize stigma and misunderstand what mental health actually looks like. And that's why these discussions matter. Literature gives us a safe space to challenge those beliefs, to question them, and to remind ourselves that anyone, literally anyone, can find themselves in a dark place. Because mental health isn't about who you are, it's about what you're going through. Now we're moving on to things I didn't like about the book. First off, I hate when books refer to the pandemic. I feel like that is a huge life-altering event, and I understand why you want to mention it, but it really timestamps the book. I personally prefer for the book to be timeless. If you read this book in 30 years, as soon as you read pandemic or COVID, something like that, it instantly shows you this is a 2020 book. So I prefer for it to be timeless. It gives it more relatability, makes it more sustainable, gives it more longevity. But I understand it was a huge life-altering event and it altered a lot of people's lives. I also was not a fan of all the cheating. I understand this was a realistic point. It makes it relatable to a lot of people. It also shows the reader what frame of mind that Phoebe is starting in the beginning of the book. I like the ending of the book. I like how no one rushes into their next relationship. I feel like the most important point in this book is working on oneself. One of the examples that we see is when Phoebe starts to become a people pleaser among the wedding people. Then she needs to take a step back and do like a self-check before proceeding, and otherwise she's going to fall into the same pattern with different people. Self-checkpoints are really important, and you can always change the direction of your own life. Now we're going to go into deeper dive questions. First off, how did you feel when Matt came looking for Phoebe? Were you surprised? Were you not? I actually really liked that he came. I wanted her to be able to slam that door in his face. I thought he deserved it. It does also touch on his regret and the grass is greener mentality. It's easier to grab something pre-made than to fight tooth and nail and make it yourself. Does the book have a circular ending? If so, how? I think it does, because it touches on Mia and her fake friendship with Phoebe, and then you do a whole lap around, and now we've got Phoebe, and is it fake, her friendship with Lila? Because she's kind of crushing on Lila's fiance? Phoebe does a lot of learning about affairs, people who work through them, why people have them. Then she finds herself in a situation where she likes Lila's fiance and is convincing herself that Lila doesn't fully love him. Full circle of being fake friends with other women. You could really probably argue that Mia was maybe doing the same thing about Phoebe when she liked Matt. Do you have to hit rock bottom before it gets better? This is different based on your perception of what is rock bottom, and it'll be different for everyone. Does pretending lead to depression? Painting a successful image for yourself in front of others and unintentionally comparing yourself to the image that you paint of yourself. I could see it, honestly. If you keep putting this fake facade in front of everybody, eventually you start to feel fake even to yourself. A deeper dive moment. Grief is not linear. This is not really a question, but we truly see it with Phoebe, and she's rebuilding her life and creating this positive environment for herself, but then she feels her old life pulling her back, and that comes with the feelings of pain and giving up. That one wasn't a question, but it was just a topic. Another question. How do you think it feels to be either party, Phoebe or Lila? Experiencing different sides of the spectrum simultaneously. Lila's getting married. She is having one of the greatest moments of her life, a very celebratory situation. Phoebe wants to take her life. Very negative situation. How do you think it feels to be either one? Witnessing the other one, knowing that they're there. So for example, the book really illustrates tension between celebration and loss. Would you struggle to be fully happy when someone next to you is having the worst time of their life? Or we could flip it. Would you struggle seeing someone celebrate such an exciting milestone, or would you find joy in it? Personally, I find my mood fluctuates with those around me. It'd be very hard for me to be in either woman's shoes. Escapism. Is it harmful or is it healing? Phoebe runs from her problems. Is it healing? Well, I mean, she is able to rediscover herself and do some self-exploration and decide without influence what she wants to do with herself. Is it harmful? I think it could be. I think it's situational. Obviously, a length of time is a factor. I think if you fully disassociate with what you're escaping, it can be harmful. You need to outline what you plan to receive from this experience and use your time wisely. Once you have a moment to have a breath of fresh air, then you can take your time, map out where you want to go from there. Avoidance and escapism aren't the same thing, but the line can waver, and avoidance is never constructive to healing. Modern isolation, feeling alone in a room full of people. I've heard this term, I've felt it myself. If you're in a room full of people and you feel alone, is it the right room? The wrong people? Do these people actually care for you? If the answer is no, it's time for some changes. Thank you for listening to me yap about my first 6-star read. I know mental health can be a bit of a heavy topic, but I always encourage you to reach out to someone you trust or a professional if you are struggling. There are a lot of things to be grateful for in life, and your presence is one of them. I do hope to do more of these style breakdowns in the future, but it really depends because I need a book that promotes that style of thinking. Some of the books I read are for entertainment, which is great, but it's harder to look at them on a deeper level. If you have any suggestions for like a deeper dive book, leave them in the comments down below. You can also subscribe and like this video, and I will see you next time.